Hello, you're listening to a preview of a premium episode of Blocked and Reported. Today we're talking about Lena Dunham. We're talking about Gia Tolentino and Hasan Piker. There's a lot going on. Oh, we're also talking about Michael Tracey and his showdown with Jim Acosta at the Hampton Inn Corral. Is that it, Katie? What else are we talking about?
We got some J.K. Rowling in there.
Oh, there's some J.K. Rowling. Yep.
Some she who shall not be named.
Yes. So if you want to hear the whole thing, go to blockedandreported.org and become a premium subscriber. Either way, hope you enjoy the preview.
Okay, Jesse, we're recording this on a rare Sunday afternoon. Usually it's Sunday, you're at church and I'm at the mosque, but we decided to record today. We've got a lot of content coming this week, so we're working on the weekends. And, so we're recording this right after this major event, this major drama in Washington, D.C. Just happened yesterday.
Everyone's talking about it.
Yes, and of course, we're talking about Michael Tracey getting kicked out of the Substack party.
Yeah. We're talking about the attempted assassination of Michael Tracey's reputation.
Yes. Did you see this?
I did not have time to dig in fully. I saw a lot of tweeting about it. This goes to his, basically, it goes
to his personality.
Goes to his personality. So at one point, what I saw was that he was calling out Jim Acosta almost like it was like a Game of Thrones scene, and he was outside the castle and he's like, I'm calling you out, King Acosta. I don't believe he actually engaged in fisticuffs with Jim Acosta, but there was also a confrontation with Julie K. Brown, the Florida reporter who broke a lot of the Jeff Epstein stuff, although there's a whole thing. What else? So what is that more or less what happened?
I like that you're on a first name basis with Jeff Epstein.
The New York financier?
Yeah,
Jeff. Yeah. My guy, Jeff.
So what happened is, Substack had this big party over I don't know if people probably didn't hear about this, but there was also an assassination attempt at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. So the Substack had a little,
can I just say, and I'm glad, because I don't think assassination would be good for everyone, sort of a perfunctory assassination attempt.
Yeah.
Sort of a low effort one. And I'm glad for that. But it is not, you don't just charge the first line of defense. I mean, anyway, it wasn't thought through, I thought.
What I liked about this one is that the potential assassin, he's POC. I like that. Most would-be assassins of Donald Trump have been white, and so it's good to see a man of color, some diversity in the potential Donald assassination game. Anyway, so back to the important story.
Sorry, this was like a side thing that distracted people when the important action was happening outside the Substack party, which I should just say
I was invited to.
Oh, you were too?
I was, and now I wish we'd gone.
I'm not surprised you did not fly across the country. Can you imagine what role would we have played?
Both of us would have been sitting there with plates full of food. You would have had grease dripping down your tux.
As everyone's rushing to see what's going on, they would have left the buffet totally unattended, and I would have absolutely taken advantage of that.
I would have been in the corner smoking weed with Andrew Sullivan.
Oh, I would love to.
Anyway, so what happened is that Substack had this dueling White House Correspondents' Party thing, and yes, Michael Brown. Oh, God.
Jesus.
Michael Tracey accosted Julie K. Brown. She has accused him of things like being on Epstein's payroll. Michael Tracey, way too old to be on the Epstein payroll, by the way. And so Michael Brown, who is I think to his credit, is confrontational. Maybe
you just keep saying Michael Brown.
Michael Tracey. Michael Tracey is a confrontational person, not one I would think who has been in many actual combat situations. And he approached Julie K. Brown and asked her, you said prove it, bitch, that I was on the Epstein payroll. And she was apparently trying to get out of the situation, and he was following her around. And then Jim Acosta stepped in and had Michael Tracey ejected from the party, which I don't think is fair. I think at a Substack party, I think Jim Acosta should have to leave.
I don't know the details. I'm not going to say anything. I will say, I went to Unheard event in Manhattan that Tracey was at, and I'm
who did he accost at that one?
I forget her name. She was connected to the campaign.
But something did happen.
Yeah. She was didn't accost her. He just asked aggressive question that wasn't connected to the night's proceedings because she was involved in the Cuomo stuff that Tracey thinks is sort of made up. And my view is that Tracey what I've read of his, when he sits down and does journalism and evaluates like Julie K. Brown's reporting or some of the Virginia Giuffre stuff, some of it I find to be both pretty damning, like that Tracy seems right, and it could be I'm completely wrong, but Tracy should maybe stick to the reporting and writing and not be so confrontational in public.
That's what I like about him. He does not read the room.
He doesn't. And it's important to have some journalists who don't read the room. That's like part of how I mean, he, I'm sure most of our listeners are familiar, but like he like went around the country and like actually reported on what was going on during a summer of a lot of destruction and a lot of chaos. And like, you need to be able to not read the room to do good journalism. And in some cases he has. Yeah. I think maybe he shouldn't. I don't know. What am I saying here?
Like, he doesn't abide by social niceties.
He does not. That you cannot accuse him of abiding by social niceties.
Okay. Anyway, that was the big drama of the weekend in DC. And if anybody,
and that's our episode. All
right. So Jesse, I had this entire episode planned today about like 5 different queer bars imploding. It's been Pride Month for dyke drama. That will come, don't worry. But my plans were waylaid thanks to Hasan, Piker, and Gia Tolentino. So that's going to be the bulk of the show today. We're going to discuss these radical chic moral arbiters shortly. But before we get to that, I want to briefly discuss Lena Dunham versus Lindy West. But before we get to that, this very 2020 drama crossed my timeline this week that I must alert you to. So please read this Instagram post by someone named KW Bogan. No capitals in her name.
The lowercase name stuff always, I think, is often a warning sign, but I'll try to be open-minded as I read this. KW Bogan, again, that is lowercase. I am new to the literary world and just published my first book. The book includes Harry Potter references, as the time setting of the book is around 2008 to 2012. I'm learning from reviews and book talk bookstagram discourse, kill me, bookstagram, that use of Harry Potter references is received as violence. I love the passive phrasing, is received as violence toward the transgender, that's capitalized, yep, and gender expansive community, as such references keep that horrible transphobe's work circulating in the IP, intellectual property. I did not know this before publishing. I really doubt that. I am genuinely, truly sorry. I also doubt that.
Right. So if you mention the existence of Harry Potter, that's going to keep J.K. Rowling's words and ideas and books circulating. It's that, not the books themselves.
It's like there's this evil figure whose name you can't even say out loud.
Yes, exactly.
For example. And I have not read the book. I just know that because I'm so down with the culture.
So this is a series of slides. And in the third slide, Bogan goes on to say that by the time she learned that it was problematic to reference the existence of Harry Potter, the books were already in print. Quote, I know better now. Please know that future works of mine will not include any references to Harry Potter. I hope that she continues to reference him, but she calls him Scary Trotter. And she says that as part of her amends, she is donating to Trans Lifeline. Quote, much love and deepest apologies to all of my trans comrades, community members, friends, and loved ones. I meant no harm, but I definitely acknowledge the impact and commit to doing better in the future. You deserve better than this from me. Heart emoji.
But there's no way this is true. When was her book published?
It's coming out now.
There's no way. There's no way that's true that she didn't know that in her world.
Right.
There's no way she didn't know that J.K. Rowling was controversial and reviled.
Well, yes, that's especially true because her real name is Catherine Wella Bogan. I'm going to read to you her bio from her own website. Catherine is first a storyteller, second a scholar activist, and third a joyful little freak.
Wait, she stole my bio.
You're a joyful big freak. Bisexual and Jewish. She grew up in rural New England.
Dude, can we please just? I'm sorry. Just make it stop. Yes. The 2020. Like I need within 30 seconds of introducing yourself, we have to know like who you fuck. Everybody. As though anybody cares. As though anybody cares.
An NIH-funded doctoral student in clinical psychology studying the intersections of bisexual identity, sexual trauma, sexual functioning, and kink. She has published more than 30 peer-reviewed...
That's brave to announce that in the era of Donald Trump.
That's true. She's published more than 30 peer-reviewed papers and a host of the political blah, blah, blah. Bogan's 500,000 plus social media followers will recognize her as KW Bogan from her public-facing scholar activism. Queering Him, the first in the Avra and Kieran trilogy, is Bogan's first novel. So she's in the queer community so much as it exists. So she absolutely, of course, knew about the Rowling controversy. And in fact, she had posted about it herself. And so in the comments, someone's like, how did you not know about this? And here's how she responds. I'm not sure what to tell you. I have many queer and trans, again, she capitalizes trans, and loved ones, and I am queer myself. I didn't understand that making HP references was seen as supporting JKR's transphobia. For example, there are also numerous Buffy the Vampire Slayer references in the book. Nowhere have I received the feedback that referencing Buffy is equivalent to supporting Joss Whedon's misogyny or his abuse of the actors. This seems like a very particular case, given who J.K. Rowling is as a person. It's a special case, which I had to learn. So she's almost onto something there, because that's a contradiction, right? Why can you reference Buffy, but you can't reference Harry Potter? But instead of saying this is fucking stupid, I'm going to refer to whoever the fuck I want, she says, I have learned and now I know.
Yeah. It just seems dishonest, but who knows?
Yeah. Look who liked this post, Jesse.
You're just trying to provoke stuff here.
Just say
it. An internet culture reporter.
It was Taylor Lorenz, not Swift. So that's what's happening in queer literature. But lest you assume that these purity spirals exist only in pro-trans spaces, allow me to disabuse you of that notion, because at the same time that this was happening on Instagram and Threads, J.K. Rowling herself was getting dragged on X for using a trans woman friend's preferred pronouns in her 2020 article coming out as a TERF. And someone brought this up in her mentions over the past week, and she was like, look, I met this trans woman post-transition. I know she's not female. She knows she's not female. And she said, quote, I find it perfectly easy to reconcile my fond feelings towards her and my experience of her as someone with very female-coded energy with a belief that she hasn't literally changed sex. And then later, she specifically called out gender-critical types who demand everyone adhere to their own rules about language and never, ever use anyone's preferred pronouns. Rowling says, some gender-critical people seem to think that demanding we all use correct sex pronouns will return the world to sanity. This is an attempt to make the tail wag the dog. You cannot fight linguistic prescriptions with more linguistic prescription, and no rights campaign can succeed if its adherents are more interested in creating a purity spiral than allowing the smallest space for nuance or the complexities of human nature and feelings. Amen, sister. The pronoun policing has gotten just as dogmatic on TERF X as it was on trans Twitter, and it's the same shit you see with this other author, K.W. Boygan. You know, her sin was mentioning the existence of Harry Potter. Rowling's sin was calling a personal friend of hers she. And in both cases, it's this purity spiral nonsense that I think makes the movement weaker, because no one likes having their language policed. And personally, I think TERFs should look at the failures of the trans rights movements and try not to replicate them.
Yeah, I don't know. I've gotten over the years a steady stream of emails, and like actually one time I was asked this after I gave a talk. Why do you use preferred pronouns? And it's just like, I don't know what to tell you. I think it's just I think it's an etiquette thing, and I think in most cases that's the decision I've made. And I also think like in some edge cases it's just not worth the hassle not to. I think there's this weirdly woke thing among some gender critical types that if I call someone a certain pronoun, I'm asserting that is their biological sex, that magically, and it's just not, I don't think that's really how language works.
Yeah, I mean, my position on this, which I've said 1,000 times before, is like, I will generally use people's preferred pronouns to be polite. That doesn't mean I can't recognize what the difference between biological sex and your adopted gender. My exceptions are like violent men, women who just want attention, and any pronoun that my grandmother wouldn't recognize, and she's dead, so that's a long list. But like, I'm not gonna fey for anybody. But for the most part, I will engage in this polite social fiction publicly. Privately, call people whatever the fuck you want. That's my feelings about it. But there are costs to refusing to engage in this fiction. And I just don't fucking like it when people police my language, whether that's coming from trans activists or TERFs.
I think we left out, just to jerk us back to the other subject, we left out the most important part of the Michael Tracy story.
Which was?
So for Tracy said, Jim Atacosta threatened to fight me tonight in the Substack party. And then a couple hours later, as he quote retweets and says, you read that.
Still have no idea whatever went on with Trump tonight. Did something go on with Trump? Just know that Jim Acosta threw a fucking hissing fit.
Hissing fit, not a hissy fit.
pussy, exclamation point. Jim, meet me in front of the Hampton Inn. And then he puts the address of the Hampton Inn.
and then someone named...
Presumably that's the address of the Hampton Inn. I'm not going to fact check that.
Someone named Matt had a great response later, which is, violence is bad, incendiary rhetoric is bad. A journalist giving the exact address of a Hampton Inn in D.C. down to the zip code and country so that another journalist that he wishes to fight can find him at the exact Hampton Inn he's at is objectively funny.
It's
and
true.
I agree with that completely.
Yeah, that's true. All right, let's talk a little bit about Lena Dunham and Lindy West. I'm going to try to have no podcast without mentioning Lindy West ever again. Can we make that goal?
Let's try. Or what about we were doing that with Keffels for a while.
We did that with Robin DiAngelo.
We should mention Aham
for sure,
because I think Aham is calling the shots.
He's the king of the throuple. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have not read the new Lena Dunham book. I don't think you have either. Is that right, Jesse?
I have not, no.
But I am interested in a couple of aspects of it. One is just that it's selling really well. So her book sold at least 60,000 copies in the first week. In 2026, that's huge. It's a #1 bestseller in the US, Canada, and the UK. And I am curious as to why this book is selling so well compared to Lindy West's book, because there are some interesting parallels between the two of them. Both have written about fatness and body positivity. Both dish about their relationships. Both are totems of millennial feminism. They got similar treatment in the press. Both were featured in the New York Times. Both books were reviewed by major outlets. Both books were very much part of the discourse. Lindy's, I think, much more so than Lena's, actually. But only one has sold well. And it's completely possible that maybe Dunham's book is just better. Hard to say since we haven't read it. Maybe it's as simple as that. But I'm curious if you think there's other stuff going on here.
I think Lena Dunham's actually a much bigger figure.
Oh, totally.
I mean, to have how many seasons was Girls on? Like 5? I did actually see the whole thing because I'm a good person.
Did you like Girls?
I mostly did like her. Yeah, 6 seasons. I mostly liked Girls, and I thought some of the discourse about them being bad people was... I thought it missed the point in a silly way because I thought that was a huge part of the point was that they were narcissistic bad people. But I thought it was mostly good and compelling. And yeah, I watched the whole thing. What about you?
I did watch the whole thing. I thought the last season was terrible where she it was as though she was trying to take some of the criticisms about the show being too white and squeeze some diversity into it. So she gave herself a brown baby at the end. I
thought with that and Sex in the City, the people, it's weird because New York is diverse, but it's also very segregated. So it's actually not at all unusual, especially for people in these sorts of circles.
Not everybody has a Camille.
Not exactly. It's like, there's a Seinfeld where George is very excited that he makes a black friend or a black coworker. So he brings him to events and introduces him as his close friend. That's what I do with Camille.
This is why the non-binary exists. So white circles can add some diversity to their friend group.
Yeah. I thought, I get why people want more diversity, but these are not diverse circles.
It's not true to life. It's not.
I mean, that's probably less so now. Over the years, if you went to NYU and studied whatever artsy thing, I think it's probably more diverse than it used to be. But it's just silly. If you just as a principle you want shows to be more diverse, that's fine. I don't think there's anything unrealistic or artificially white about Girls. I think those are just those circles.
Yes, but also it's also true that people called out shows like Girls for being too white. Has anybody called out The Big Bang Theory for being too white or Malcolm in the Middle for being too white? It's Lena Dunham because she...
No, because it's the shows that people on Twitter care about, like lefties.
Yeah. But no, I think when we're asking why Lena's book has done so much better than Lindy's, I think the simplest and probably the best explanation is just that Lena Dunham is much more famous. Lindy West is well known. Both of them did have TV shows, yes. But when it just comes to sheer fame, it's not even close. And
well, let's do that. I'm curious, this is a very rough proxy, but Instagram Lena Dunham, yes, 3 million followers. There is no way Lindy West, I bet she's in the mid 6 figures. Lindy West.
I bet she's less than that.
Oh yeah, only 135,000.
Yeah.
Dr. Lindy West, that's a joke. I get it.
I know. I think she has an honorary degree.
And she puts that in her thing, not as a joke?
I mean, it might be tongue in cheek, but I think she also has I don't know. Maybe I thought that maybe I think that just because she says that in her bio. Anyway, Lena is undoubtedly more famous than Lindy. Yeah. And the #1 thing that helps a book sell is being famous. And plus, this book is, from what I've heard about it, it's gossipy about and revealing about other famous people. Yeah. People want to know if Jack cheated on her with Lord. People want to know what it was really like on the set of Girls. And she's apparently pretty candid in the book, and that's going to be catnip to readers, I think, particularly women.
Also, we talked about this. I continue to think Lindy. I thought the book was in it like at the level of sentences mostly well written, except for all those annoying.
You love exclamation points.
Well, that was gonna say, except for the fucking maybe try not to be fascist exclamation.
Right.
But it was extremely shallow.
Oh, yes.
Like, she did not even explain the most important thing, which is how she came to live in a throuple. It's like barely addressed.
Who sleeps in the middle?
Maybe that doesn't matter, because I think a lot of people, if you're buying a book from Lindy West or Lena Dunham, you're probably not first investigating, is it good? You're buying it to support them.
Right.
But I don't know. It seems like it was not like an illuminating or particularly interesting book, especially the road trip where she well, this is just going to launch me to a whole other thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So Lee Stein pointed out something I thought was pretty astute. So she posted this: selling 60,000 copies of Fame Sick week 1 is an incredible feat. Lindy turned her fans into enemies during her book launch, and Lena turned her former haters into fans. Lena is a master at leveraging attention. I think she's right about this. I mean, there's been this rash of think pieces from former Lena Dunham haters about how they were wrong. She actually is the voice of her generation. You know, Lena Dunham is good, actually. But when Lindy West fans express what I think was largely genuine concern about her and her relationship based on what Lindy West herself wrote about her and her relationship, Lindy's response was to condescend to those same fans. You know, she did the baby voice, then her weird husband wrote the shitty emails. Like, why would a fan support someone like that? She just comes across as very defensive, while Lena Dunham is self-deprecating and seems more self-aware, and it's charming. Like, I heard her on the New York Times interview podcast, and the host asked why she thinks that she's always been so hated. She said, "I think people hate me because I'm annoying, and I've always been annoying."
Oh man, like, that's refreshing. That's like how I would answer that question. Well, it's because I suck. I think.
They hate me because I'm hateable.
Yeah.
It's easier to root for someone who says that than someone who does the baby voice.
But Lindy West might have done the baby voice. She also is very self-deprecating in her own way. So I don't know if it's a perfect comparison, but
she is. But she also does this thing where she's like, and maybe Lena does it too, where she's like, "I'm the best person in the world." You know what I mean? Like, she's self-loathing.
She definitely projects superiority over most of America in a way that I don't think Lena Dunham ever would.
Right. And Lena Dunham also just has a lot of practice on how to handle the public. Like, she was a punching bag for years, not just by the political right, although certainly there too. And really, like, big picture, her sins were very minor. Like, there was this whole narrative about her privilege. I'm using that in scare quotes because she's like average Oberlin grad privilege. Her parents are successful working artists, but very few people outside of the art world would have heard of them if not for their famous daughter. Lena wasn't even the most privileged actor on Girls. Like, her co-stars were the children of David Mamet and Brian Williams. Those are true Nepo babies.
Yeah.
Lena Dunham's mom makes like miniatures.
Yeah. Well, who was your favorite female Girls character?
I hated all of them. And that was kind of my problem.
Yeah, that was the joy of it.
Yeah, my problem with that show was that I found there was too much sex in it, and I found the sex like painful to watch. Like, her whole relationship with Adam Driver, who's basically a fucking strange-looking shut-in, was so the sex, like, you could tell what his apartment smelled like by just seeing it on screen. I found it like disgusting to watch. It made my skin crawl. I mean, that doesn't mean it's bad storytelling.
But don't you think that's why it appealed to like straight women in their 20s? Because that's like somewhat more
too many kissing noises. I think I can see why other people liked it, and I think the writing was smart and there were some funny moments, but I just like I don't like TV that's gratuitously sexual, especially when it's disgusting.
This is more of a Katie thing than a craft of the show thing. Yeah.
If they had put bars over the sex scenes, like completely censored it and muted it, maybe it would have been tolerable.
There was like an infamous ass eating scene toward the end of it.
Whose
right?
ass got eaten?
Was it? I don't want no defamation. I think it was Allison Williams. Let me double check. Ass eating Allison Williams. Yeah. The first thing is Allison Williams gets her ass eating. And then there's a YouTube video, the story behind the Allison Williams ass eating scene.
Of course.
There's a whole, only Allison Williams, oh God, BK Mag, Brooklyn Mag.
Jesse's watching it right now.
I'm just reading one more headline about this because it was a whole thing. I am not watching it, but only Allison Williams could make getting her ass eaten out boring. Oh, that's kind of harsh.
Do you remember when Lena Dunham got in trouble over the Odell Beckham Jr. thing?
What did she do?
Oh, this was actually very funny. So she went to the Met Gala, and then afterwards she was seated next to Odell Beckham Jr. And afterwards she did this. She used to have it. She was before her time when it came to newsletters. She had this thing called Lenny Letter, and it was a newsletter. And she was talking. It was like published in Lenny Letter. Was this conversation she had with Amy Schumer, and she said, "Here's the exact quote." Odell Beckham Jr. is an NFL player.
Wide receiver.
I was sitting next to Odell Beckham Jr. and it was so amazing because he like looked at me and determined I was not the shape of a woman by his standards. He was like, "That's a marshmallow. That's a child. That's a dog." It wasn't mean. He just
really
seemed confused. It's very funny. But there was this huge backlash to this for the crime of racism. Odell Beckham Jr. is
oh
black.
My God.
Roxane Gay called her out for being insufficiently intersectional. Lena Dunham was dragged all over the internet. There were pieces like, "Women of color, it's time to divest from Lena Dunham."
This is such a good example of why millennial feminism failed. Because like she's look, obviously there's something a little bit unfair because she can't look into Odell Beckham Jr. But this is something
it's
like
also,
any.
It's also probably true. Like, do you think that Odell Beckham Jr. is attracted to girls who eat entire meals in bed? Probably not.
No, right. But my point is, she's talking about basically a universal female experience for any woman who is not sort of traditionally hot. And like whether or not this was actually true in OBJ's
being at the
case,
Met, being seated next to an NFL player, it is a very relatable experience.
But it's just sort of perfect in terms of what happened to millennial feminism, that there's no fucking unity among just women as like, yeah, this is a thing that happens. The patriarchy is bad. Misogyny is bad. It's all just you accused a guy of misogyny, but he had the wrong skin color for you to do that. Whereas it's just it's sort of bullshit all the way down.
And Lena Dunham did the thing that you shouldn't do, and she apologized for this. So here's what she wrote.
Did she apologize in a baby voice?
She apologized for, quote, "contributing to a long and often violent history of the over-sexualization of black male bodies."
Okay, you know what? I don't care anymore. I don't like Lena Dunham. Anything nice I said.
As well as false accusations by white women towards black men.
This is basically the Emmett Till story all over again.
Yes,
it's literally
this is it.
Also, she was not she was accusing him of under-sexualization, of not being interested in her.
Right. So she did shit like that. That's the sort of thing that made me dislike Lena Dunham, was the apologies of like,
I forgot she called me an asshole.
Oh, she did? Okay, now I like her again.
Yeah. She had good taste in something. Well, it was like sort of bank shot where like someone else talked shit about me and then she replied, "What an asshole."
Yeah. She defended her friend against a rape allegation. Can't have that.
Who was her friend?
He was a writer for Girls, something Miles Murray. I looked him up the other day and he has not worked since then. She apologized for that too. So she has always provoked this outsized degree of hate considering the degree of her sins, which I think is frankly largely jealousy, because she looks like a normal person, but she's had the success of a star, and that makes people resentful. I mean, I'm resentful. She's fucking younger than me. How dare she? It's sick. But it does appear that things are going well for her now, at least with this book.
Can I just say, just their girls would mark such like a moment that's different in some ways and the same in others. Read this Onion about her and tell me if they would ever publish something like this today.
Next episode of Girls to feature Lena Dunham shitting herself during gyno exam while eating a burrito. Absolutely not. Ben Collins' Onion would never.
Absolutely not.
That would be funny. That would be a Girls episode.
The Onion became so establishment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, they still do some funny stuff, but they just would never ever like sort of criticize. No. Anyway, continue.
That's all I have to say about Lena Dunham. Okay, Jesse. So let's move on to Hasan, Piker, and Gia Tolentino. So the New York Times...
Having my two favorite cultural commentators on the same podcast at the same time is such a joy. And I was so excited when I saw this had happened. So I assume you just want to like praise it for a while and call it a day. Yeah.
So this is part of this new feature that the New York Times opinion section is doing. It's these
called Make Everyone Hate Us.
It's these video podcasts where two people of varying degrees of insufferability are in discussion with culture editor Nadia Spiegelman. It's a good feature. There's lots of opportunities for rage bait here. Have you seen any besides this one?
No.
So we actually talked about one a couple weeks ago when they had Brock Coiler and Amanito So on it.
Oh, I forgot. And okay, yeah, we did. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that one was on the death and rebirth of wokeness. I do think this is a good feature, especially because these interviews like invariably will end up pissing a lot of people off, which is what happened in this one that we're going to talk about today. But before we get into it, everyone listening to this is surely familiar with Hasan Piker. We have talked about him plenty. But Gia Tolentino, I think she's only come up in one, like in any significant way in one episode. Do you remember what that was about?
I do, because I was reviewing some of the details today, which is Gia, who's a superstar New Yorker writer, or I don't know, maybe her star is peaked, but she was like the writer in New York media circles.
She was the voice of a generation.
She and Lena Dunham were both the voice of a generation.
The same generation.
How many voices of a generation can you have? I don't know. Some folks dug up online that her father had pled guilty to, well, it was part of sort of what was seen as a trafficking scheme of bringing, she's Filipino by descent. I mean, she's American of Filipino descent. That's it. That's all you get for the preview. You freeloaders, if you want to hear the rest, go to blockedreport.org and become a premium subscriber. Bye.